I'm Brian Van, SportbikeTrackGear.com, and today we're going to break down the Attack Performance Zero Offset clip-ons installed on our 2018 STG project bike. Okay, before I even dive into this, okay, this is a really unique part. You're trying to change the ergonomics of the bike quite a bit. You can run into conflicts different from model to model. You might need to replace the throttle and install like a Motion Pro Rev 2 quick turn or a different brand. Brake lines, I've got a Spiegler brake line on this. I was able to reposition that. That worked. The OE ones may or may not work, hard to say. Brake reservoir. I had to get a little creative there. I'll cover that in this install video to show you what I did, but I want you to expect for sure having to relocate your brake reservoir, okay? Clutch side was pretty straightforward on this model. Once again, this is going to vary from bike to bike. The reason being, your handlebar position went from here to back here. You're moving it closer to the rider, and the cables, they were designed to be here, okay? So when you move that, you're going to have to make some adjustments in order to get that dialed in. So don't order these and the night before I'm gonna hurry up and throw my clip-ons on and run to the racetrack and everything's gonna be great. It may go that smoothly, but there is also a strong possibility you're gonna have to make some adjustments to the motorcycle to get these to install. It's a commitment to be able to get a part on here that's gonna allow you to dial the ergonomics of the bike into best suit the rider. Okay, before we jump into the Attack Performance Zero Offset clip-on install, what I want to do is I want to take a minute to really give you the opportunity to visualize the difference in bar position. On the motorcycle right now, we have a pair of Vortex clip-ons. They fit a little further out than the OE clip-ons do. I also have the Attack Zero Offset clip-ons on the bike, and I've got the angle set up so it's basically the same. And you can see right now, compared to a standard set of clip-ons, how much different the reach is. Now I'll take and we'll set the OE bar. I got to eyeball some stuff here and kind of get it positioned. So you can see that literally lands right in the middle. Ergonomics of the bike are huge. They can have everything to do with how well you do or do not ride the bike. I've always felt like I've wanted the bars a little closer to the back, and each time I replace the clip-ons from the OE to a pair of race clip-ons, they're a little further out front, and I do notice it, and my preference would be a little further back. With that said, you never want to leave these on the bike because at the end of the day you have a tip over, it breaks, you can't replace just a tube. That's a big problem, right? You have a tip over at the track, your triple clamp, everything's coming off, it's just a disaster. You don't want to go that route. It's really important that you don't leave yourself short on time when you go to install these. Don't order these and then try and install them the night before your track day and think everything's going to be easy peasy lemon squeezy, because there is a possibility of some conflict with some different things. So make sure you give yourself enough time from when you receive these to when you ride next, so that if you go to install them and you see that you've got some things to sort out, that you have the opportunity to get that done and get that perfect end result. If you like what you see, you're interested and how these fit on a GSX-R1000, stay tuned. We're going to show you every step of the installation. Okay, before we jump in and install these, just kind of give you an idea of what the product itself looks like. It's a hinge design. It's important to note that when you torque these, right, there's a lot of mechanical advantage here. You want to be careful. You don't want to just reef these things down, because these could in fact crush the fork tube, okay? So you want to be careful with the torque. The bar slides in and bottoms out like so. You want to make sure that when you're assembling that you get that all the way in there, bottomed out, and then torque both of these fasteners. Okay, we'll begin by opening the cuff up. Go over that fork tube, rotate it around, and we'll put the two fasteners in. Okay, I just want to get these seated. Make sure they're even, but leave them loose enough that I'm able to rotate the cuff without too much effort. Right about there, feels pretty good. I already went through the entire process, the entire install. So what I'm going to show you here now is essentially, I'm going to go through the process, but I'm going to show you what I did to get them installed on the bike. Okay, once I have the cuff on the fork tube in position, I then slid the bar through my Motion Pro Rev 2 throttle. Next piece is going to be the start-stop switch. Get one of the screws in that. This install, there's a possibility, depending on your bike, that your stock switch pods, your stock throttle may not allow for installation. You may need to have a Rev 2 or some other variant of a quick turn on the motorcycle in order to complete the install. That is quite possible. Okay, bar closer in. Make sure that is seated all the way. What I want to do here is establish my length. That's right about there. And that switch pod. Kind of bring that out to the throttle. And from here I can then kind of rotate the switch in the bar a little bit. Snug up the screws on the Motion Pro start-stop switch. You don't need to drill for this one. There's no locator pin. What they have done is internally it has like a rubber pad that as you torque this down, these two screws, the pad itself compresses, flattens out, and it grips on the bar. Okay, so a little thinner, a little easier to install than the always switch pod. Okay, now I see I'll rotate it back around so the switch is where I want it. The switch is now in a fixed position. I want to make sure I've got that in there all the way. Okay, I like that spot right there. Got a 5mm T-handle, put a little torque on the bar so it doesn't come out. You'll notice now I pulled one of the fasteners out. The reason I did that is the brake reservoir. I used the stock bracket that came on this GSX-R1000 and I modified it just a little bit. I pulled out the grommet that was in there, the well nut, took that out. I'm going to bolt it to the bottom of this clip-on cuff fastener right here, and then I relocated the reservoir from this side of the bracket to the other side, and it fit really good. Another modification that had to be made was the actual brake line itself. The brake line was contacting the fork tube and not allowing me to push the lever, rotate the master down as far as I wanted to get the proper lever angle. So I had to loosen up the banjo bolt, reposition the line, and rotate it down. I have Spiegler brake lines on this bike, and they allowed me to do that. There is, depending upon your model, right, there is a possibility that you'll have to get maybe a different brake line fitting or a different front line. Odds are, most bikes, you'll be okay, but just bear in mind that is in fact a possibility. I'm going to install that longer fastener here. Kind of run that down. I'm going to torque both of these now because I need to put a nut on the back side of this. You'll see it's protruding through the cuff. Good even torque here. I have a locking nut from my spares collection that I'm going to use down here. Bracket located on the bottom side. This just took a little while to mock this up. I tried a couple of different ideas and then I landed on this one. Seemed to work real well. We do have universal reservoir brackets. We have a real nice one from Driven that you're able to kind of reshape. Stainless steel piece, pretty thick, and that would really allow you a lot of flexibility. We have a video on that where I actually installed one of those on Jimmy's bike. I've used those in a couple of different applications at this point. Real cool product, so that could be an option here if you need it. Go ahead and snug this up, and then we'll get the master cylinder installed. Okay, once I've got that bracket bolted down, go ahead and just get the master cylinder up here and in place. At some point on this bike too, we will end up putting a Brembo on here. Just haven't quite gotten to that yet. You know, trying to do this in stages. Might be a next season thing. Now, on the Brembo Master, we'll change the configuration a little bit too. Even though the end bar length is the same as a standard style set of clip-ons, the available working space here is going to be a little bit less because of the clip-on cuff design, the way that's protruding out to be able to capture that bar. So that's just, you know, by nature, that's the way this is going to be. I think to help out a little bit, we'll tune this listing up. I'm going to reach out to Attack and see if they have just a quick list of bikes where they know these have been successfully installed on. Might really help people to avoid purchasing them and going through, you know, a long time of mock-up, only to find that, you know, it's just really not going to work out in their particular model. Okay, I can adjust the bar angle later. I'll kind of get it started now. Tighten the top one all the way, and then the torque is put on the lower bolt here on the clamp. That's pretty typical with Brake Master. That angle looks pretty good. Okay, get that torqued. And now our throttle. Kind of position that right there for now. This may need to be adjusted once I get the brake reservoir on there. So I'm not going to torque those all the way down. Came up with some different hardware for the brake reservoir, a little step, internal hex fastener, locking nut for the back side. Pass that through the bracket, like so. Bring the reservoir up. Get the nut on the back side here. Now, once again, this is going to look different for every model. You know, it really may be necessary for you to, you know, grab something like that driven universal bracket that I talked about. You're really able to shape that thing, and just so many options with mounting it. You know, that very likely is going to work out for most of these bikes that, you know, you're doing this on. Just so happened this Suzuki, I was able to come up with a plan to kind of reshape that OE bracket a little bit. Give a little tweak there. Just give it a little push. Kind of move that around. The angle looks good on the reservoir hose too. I thought at one point I was going to have to replace that, and that turned out to be just fine. Okay, now, very important here. Just going to rotate it over, and you can see, yeah, we've got a lot of clearance on this side, no problem. When we rotate back that way, it's going to pull on the cables. You can see they're just a little tight. We still have good throttle return. Okay, it's important to note that. What I am going to be doing is between the steering stops on a lower triple and the frame of the bike, I'm going to put a lead wheel weight, a stick-on wheel weight That'll reduce the amount of handlebar sweep, which is no big deal. You don't need all that on the racetrack anyways. You're never turning stop to stop. It'll just prevent it from being able to turn the bars that far and putting any stress whatsoever on those cables. Once we get this installed, completely done both sides, you know, we're going to go through the paces and make sure we sweep the bars back and forth both ways and that we don't have any conflicts, you know, with binding throttle cables, anything like that. Okay, we'll go ahead and install the cuff on the clutch side now. Got a torque spec for you. It is 8 Newton meters. Okay, so that is not a lot. So like I said, when you're installing these, you definitely want to be aware of that. A lot of clamping force here. A lot of surface area too, so they really don't need to be super tight. Converting that to foot-pounds, I believe, is about 5.9, so just under 6. I'd already previously kind of picked some spots, you know, where I'm going to locate these to make sure they're even. And I can adjust accordingly. You know, you really need to ride the bike to understand the best possible spot. Make sure the torque is definitely even. Nice even pull. Okay. On this side I did choose, because I'm using the stock switch pod still, I didn't want to grind the tab off, so I did drill for this. How I like to determine where it's going to go is I'll put the grip on the bar. I'll then take a measurement, the width of the pod, the locator tab. I'll measure that from here to here, because this is inboard, right? The locator tab, so from the end of the grip to there, center punch, I drill the exact same size, with a nice tight fit, and then go ahead and install it. Okay, when we're ready to install, I'm going to go ahead and slide the bar through that OE clutch perch. Probably change that at some point too. I'm going to get it in there part of the way. I'm going to leave it loose for right now. Makes it easier to put the screws in the switch pod. Find that tab. That bad boy all. Up in there. Okay. So what I want to do here is I want to try and rotate it so I can put the screws in it. Might need to go in the other direction. Yep, that's going to work. This makes it a lot easier to get the screws in. Tolerance is pretty tight there with the body work. At some point too, I do want to get one of those kick-ass aftermarket, you know, race bike switch pods. I actually know of a brand, one of our favorite brands, that's coming out with a product line a lot like that very soon that we'll be installing on this bike. I can't say who it is right now, but I'll tell you it's pretty sweet. Looking forward to it. You know, the OE switches, they just have a lot of functionality you're just never going to use again on a race bike. And you can't totally eliminate these on most of the current bikes because it has the mode switches. You know, you have to have that with all the electronics and such that are on the bikes now. You don't want to let that stuff go. You know, it used to be there was a time you just took the turn signal switch pod and you just take that one off and throw it in the garbage when you're prepping your bike, but it's not like that now. Okay. Once I've got that screws in there, just a lot easier. You can see at that angle, this thing kind of sits up like that. I'm gonna make sure I have this bar in all the way. Okay, that's seated. Want that right about there. A little bit of torque here. Okay, now the clutch, perch and lever. Okay, I want to get that as far inboard as I can, and I want to have an angle that kind of mirrors what I've got going on here with the brake right now. So to do that, I'm just going to jump on the bike. Sight line here, I can look down, I can really compare the two. Just like right there. Now once again, this stuff, I'm really going to fine tune this later for the purpose of the video right now. Okay, so just get those levers. Like I said, this is just close, you know. Snug that up. And we're ready for a grip. Okay, everything is assembled now. One of the most critical things you can do is this. Sweep the bars back and forth and see if we have any issue, creating any new conflicts for ourselves, clearance issues. That all looks good. Most importantly, let's check the throttle. There's a really strong snap there. Strong there. Strong there. A little bit of tension on that cable when I'm all the way over. So what I think I'm going to want to do here to alleviate some of that is I want to get in there and just put that wheel weight in between the steering stop and the bottom of the triple, right? It'll reduce the total sweep. It's also good if you have a little crash, it can help prevent the triple from breaking, which is nice too. The tab will break off the triple sometimes. That wheel weight can actually absorb some of that energy and deform in a crash. So that's kind of a twofold thing. I usually do that on most bikes, just haven't done it on this one yet. So there you have it. You can see this part is unique, right? How it'll install on every bike is going to be very different. The reason you would want to do this is you want to bring the bars back closer to the rider. You know, you want that ergonomic position of the bars to be closer to the rider. Modification is going to be required to different parts throughout the bike for sure here in the controls, and that's going to vary a lot from model to model. Like I said, I'm going to reach out to Attack and see if I can get a list of known bikes that this will fit. Things that I do want you to expect having issues with is having to rotate the brake line fitting. Okay, that's fair, no doubt about that. Throttles, some of the real bulbous OE throttles, like the one that was on the Suzuki, that just may not fit in here. The stock throttle may not fit. You know, we've got these cool quick turns from Motion Pro, the Rev 2s that bolt right up. Get rid of the switch pod and you get the little start-stop switch here too. Don't have to drill that bar, that's nice. On the clutch side, I was able to use the OE clutch perch without any problem. Plenty of adjustment, everything worked out fine. These are the Attack Performance zero offset clip-ons installed in our 2018 Suzuki GSX-R1000 STG project bike.